just share this part actually. All right, so let's go ahead and get started here. Okay, so the same way we use the daily candle, that small opposing run, we want to trade only expansion candles, right? It's the same way we're going to apply that logic to the 4-hour chart, right? And this is when we're doing this, we're trading within a 4-hour expansion candle within a daily expansion candle. We are aligning expansion candles, which is what we do pretty much on fractally, right? When you look at a weekly candle, you're just trading away from a protected swing, and then you're trading expansion candles away from that. So we're constantly always doing this. This is just a little bit more refined. Um, so let's just run through my approach to daily profiles first, because that's important in the way I incorporate the 4-hour candle. So if you guys seen my previous stream, a couple streams ago or whatnot, I like to see a manipulation, right, that creates the low of the day, pretty much, right? So I just call it intracandle, the intracandle CSD, kind of like an intracandle manipulation that creates the low of the day. Because at this point, I can assume that expansion will occur after manipulation, right? Because that's what happens after manipulation, right? Now I have a protected swing, right, internally to this candle, right? So um, every single time that we form this profile, we are always going to have a 4-hour model, right? Because a 4-hour candle has to create the low of the day every single day, right? Um, so this is what I look to trade. I'm looking to trade in or around the opening price of this daily candle, and then I wait for alignment on the 4-hour candle. Okay, and this can look a couple different ways, right? With how profiles form and stuff like that. But that is the general idea, right? And then we're going to pair a manipulation with the S&T. Mind you, this is the hourly chart as well. We're going to pair that with a driver or just a session. This is London session. Then we're going to pair it with drivers later on, right, for continuation away from here. But yeah, so that's just a general breakdown. There's other ways, right? If we don't get this for continuation, right, then it's essentially just especially for indices, I'm always going to refer same thing with 4-hour opens. I want to enter around the opening prices of candles, right? So naturally, this model here, when you trade away from manipulation, you're always entering under the opening price inside of the wick, usually of this daily candle, and then you're basically entering around the opening price or aligning yourself with expansion with these 4-hour candles. So basically, these 4-hour candles, when they expand, they're just creating the body of the daily candle, right? So this is where you're gonna have fractal models, or um, this is almost like AM's approach. My approach is very similar to AM, where I like to trade away from protected highs and lows within the daily candle, um, right? And then, but I also incorporate like candle openings, just like T does. I don't think AM really does that. He doesn't really care about 4-hour opens or 1-hour opens, but that's kind of what I do. So it's almost like AM's logic and T's logic a lot of the time. So naturally, trading this way, you're almost trading the fractal model, damn near. It's just like high probability framework, like pretty much. Um, so yeah, so let's get into like some of the different versions of this. So first, let's go over how a reversal candle forms and the ones that we can trade, right? So there's really two ways a reversal candle forms. Let me just draw this real quick. This isn't very important to know, by the way. Let me make this black here. Right, so let's say this is our key level or whatnot. Sweep out this low. So there's this way a reversal candle can form, and this is the only one we want to trade, and that is reversal into expansion, right? Where we open up near the low of the candle that hit the key level. And this is very important we need to open low first, right? And then expand, right? Because if we do something like this where we open high, make a significant run above the opening price, and come all the way back down, right? That's not generally how we want to see, bullish expansion candles form because there's just not enough time in this candle to expand again. It may form that small opposing run, right? It's going to form that small opposing run still because this run below the open is just creating the wick, but when it, makes a significant run above the open, it just doesn't have enough time usually in the candle. So it can do this, right? It can make a small opposing run above and then come back down. That's fine. But if it trades into a key level or something, that's generally a invalidation, right? And then we also need that small opposing run, right? Which supports expansion, right? Hence why reversal into expansion because it has that small opposing run, right? Um, and this is the other version, right? Where it more so just closes an indecision candle. This is not what we want to trade at all. You would trade the next candle after, right? Whoops. Quarter. Yeah, we would just trade the next candle, right? Um, and we can anticipate how this candle forms. Like there's invalidations, very simple invalidations. Just like I said, if it goes open high first, that's the same thing as the other one. But the real invalidations when we start to trade away from the opening price, creating that large wick, which does not support expansion. Then you just wait for the next candle. So this is what I mean by candle alignment on the 4-hour chart. If I go here, you see how we have that small opposing run? I can actually trade the reversal within this candle, right? So within a 4-hour candle, you're going to have a 1-hour candle right here. This may be confusing, but there's obviously 4 candles um, within a 4-hour candle. So when we create the low today, there's always going to be a 1-hour close, which could be a fractal model, right? We could have that candle 2 closure. So when you have that candle 2 closure, right, assuming that everything is aligned, right, we're already assuming this is the low of the day because it's manipulation with the SMT under the daily open, our daily bias is bullish, et cetera, et cetera. At this point, when you have that hourly candle 2 closure, you have the 4-hour now aligned, right, where we have that small wick. So the 4-hour candle is actually supporting a lower time frame model, and that's generally all we really look for, right? When we're thinking about models, we're thinking about like any manipulation, maybe to a range low, to a range high. All we're trading is expansion candles to a draw on liquidity. That's it, right? So this is what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to align a lower time frame model with a higher time frame expansion candle. Okay? And yeah, we wouldn't trade this candle. We would just trade the next candle. So those are the two ways an expansion candle or a reversal candle forms. This case, right, not an expansion candle. Have that deep run above the opening price or below it. Right, so you just wait for the next candle. That's what I mean by alignment. So let's go into some examples here. I have a ton of examples, okay, to show you guys. And just different ways to kind of apply the 4-hour candle. So here we have GJ, this week's price action. We open high first, and we don't create a wick, the weekly candle, which is never ideal, right? If you want to be bullish, right? So when we get this candlestick closer on a Tuesday within a key level, right, we can kind of revert back to this low of the week, which is Monday. And we just have fair swings in general, not ideal, right? Um, so let's go and look inside of this price action here. So like I said, if we look here, we've already played this for you. So let's go and look inside of these 4-hour candles right here. You see how this is forming the high of the day. A 4-hour candle is forming the high day. We have SMT creating the high of the day as well. We have some failure swings here we could target, right? You can just see on the 4-hour chart these failure swings, right? So let's look inside of these candles here, right? And why we can trade this candle in particular, and as well as the continuation. So if you see here, we have an hourly swing point, we have an SMT, right? The candle is going open high first. The low of the day is just 1700, so it's not really an established low. It's kind of like the weekly candle here, where it's not in a relevant time. It didn't really do anything. Um, so let me open up. Let's see, 5 a.m. Yeah, for forex it's 5 a.m. It's also 9 a.m. So at this point, we open up the candle here. We open high first, and then we create that SMT. Right. So this is all valid to trade back into the range. We're already in a key level, right? So if you know my rule of reversal, right? This candle hit a key level. I can frame reversal off this high. We also have a Monday with very large range. So generally you can trade back into that range. That's just another thing, right? But let's go into it here. Right, so how do you confirm the high of the day? Well, if you want to use a higher time frame, like at least 50-minute as your lowest. So here you have the 50-minute. So we just open high on the 4-hour chart. We create that small wick. So when you get this alignment, you are now aligned with the 4-hour candle to trade away from this SMT manipulation. And you're assuming this to be the high of the day. And here you're just getting continuation, right? It's almost like a fractal model, right? This is literally a candle two right here, but you're trading within it. So if I go to the 1-hour chart, this is where you would look for candle two close on the hourly, but we don't have that, right? You can also, drop down. We have a candle three closure right here in the 30 minutes. So this is something we look for. Even right here, you have a candle two closure. So see how this 30-minute, opportunities are aligned with the 4-hour candle. So that's generally what we like to see, right? Um, but we go to 1 hour. Do we have a? Okay, we do have a decent candle three closure where we're closing above the body. So we're probably a swing point, right? You can expect the candle for expansion. So let's just go and see if there's an opportunity here. Where is that at, by the way? Okay, it's right here. We open up right here. We open high first. We get the intra-candle CSD right here within that 15-minute fair value gap. So this is what I mean by you gotta use other time frames. Ideally, this is how you're gonna have the best results. By the way, with any model, is using narrative blending of time frames. This is something that's probably more advanced. Learn the model first, but to have the best um, results, I promise you, you're gonna have to learn how to do this stuff. Um, but here you have two opportunities, right? This forms a high of the 7 a.m. candle of that candle four right here, and you get a continuation of that right there. So that's an opportunity, right? Just trading within that 4-hour candle. So what about redistribution of the daily candle within a 4-hour candle? So here we open up this 4-hour candle. Let's start to delete this stuff, make it cleaner and stuff. At this point, you have a candle two closure, right? Which is an ideal swing formation. If you know T-Trade's idea of swing formation, you're assuming this is the high day. So we'd assume a candle, this candle four, oh my God, I can't talk. This 4-hour candle to be continuation, right? To this unestablished low on the daily time frame. There's just also equal lows here, right? So when I drop down to the hourly chart, what is the 4-hour candle being created by? A 1-hour model, right? So you see how we can blend these time frames here? You're basically catching the 4-hour candle. This is a 4-hour model in itself, so you can use the 50-minute, but if you want to refine it, you can use the hourly model, you can use a 30-minute model. It doesn't really matter, right? There's so many ways to blend the fractal model. It's crazy good. Um, but yeah, I can show you all the different models here where we open up first, right? That's what you want to see on the 5-minute chart, right? Where's it at? So within this, in years you can trade this candle too, by the way. I trade candle twos all the time. It's because of what the 4-hour chart, the context, right, of the daily candle and stuff. I'm already anticipating open, high, low, close, right? So if I have that small opposing run on the 4 or the what do you call it? The 4-hour chart, right? And it's being created in a key level. And I also see this 1-hour candle within that 4-hour candle go open high first, sweep out a high. This is the candle two being created, by the way. So you can already assume that this can be expansion, right? But that's maybe a little bit more advanced, but Here you get a continuation, right? You get a candle 3, where we open here, intra-candle CSD right there. So that's another thing you could take. But yeah, here's this example of today, or this day. Starting with that daily internal range liquidity. And then here's the 4-hour reversals, right? And this is a reversal into expansion. Why? Because we open eye first, you have that small opposing run, right? So you have that manipulation aligned and supported by a 4-hour candle, right? So let's go into some other examples here. So at this point, let's just look at the 4-hour chart here. We have an SMT at the high of the week. So we want to see, and it's 4.0 key level. So we're just really getting that bearish order flow back to the weekly open here, right? So just going over that real quick. And let's go over some models here. Right, so with this candle here on the daily chart, we form a swing point here, right? And then you get an intra-candle CSD right here. And here, we take out this low. And what phase of price do we get at this point? We get consolidation, right? So when we manipulate with SMT, right, we're going to trade towards these failure swings, right? So now let's pair a 4-hour candle with this model. So here we have the hourly candle 2 closure, right? But we also have on the candle 3 open of the hourly chart, we have a 4-hour candle, right? So you're aligning a higher time frame expansion candle with a lower time frame model. Does that make sense? So when we drop down, we have this chain of state delivery already, right? And then we're opening low first. So I'm not really gonna trust this little what do you call it? CSD here. I just never do that personally. I go there at the 15-minute, it's nothing, you know, it's not even a swing point high or anything. So here we have this 15-minute CSD. So the high of this 1-hour candle and the 4-hour candle is being created from the 50-minute chart, and just this sweep, which is the fair value gap high on the 50-minute chart. So this is generally what I want to trust, right? A sweep creating the high. So it's just like the daily chart, where I like to see the high created from SMT and manipulation. So this is the 4-hour candle, right? It's being created from manipulation. Same thing. And then we get this CSD here, right? It's much more high probability when you demand stuff like this, right? And then you get a nice candle 3 expansion on the hourly chart. So this is just a 1-hour model supported by not only the daily candle. When I look at the daily candle, we have that small opposing run, right? Small opposing run. When I go to the 4-hour candle, we also have that small opposing run, right? Does that make sense? And we're really just trading away from this, right? This we're just finding support here at this opposing candle. Previous candle hit that. Look at the opposing side of that. We just have failure swing trade. So we're just trading an open eye low close to there. So yeah, let's go to the next day. So this next example is another really good trade where we're just kind of trading back to the opening price. We're not showing a willingness to trade away from this fair value gap here. We do get a candle 2 closure here. I think maybe not. I'm not really sure, but the profile here is my A plus profile that I like to see. When I look left, I have these opposing candles that is forming the high, but mainly what I like to see, just like this day over here, it's the same thing, hourly sweep on liquidity with the SMT is what we see here. So the daily candle goes open eye first. Right? It's even better than this day that we saw first because this opposing run is quite large. So when it's quite large, you kind of have to adjust your target. So notice how we just targeted just the daily low. I'm not targeting way down here because that's not how expansion candles form. So we have to kind of have to adjust your target back to around the opening price because we expect it to close somewhere around the opening price, maybe a little bit lower. But this case, we open eye first, which is always ideal, right? And I'll go to the 4-hour chart. We can trade these expansion candles, right? We can catch the high today here because it's an expansion candle, right? It has that small wick. So here, you see how we open up the, where's it at? The candle here. Right. Again, we do open low first, but it's not a huge opposing run, right? We didn't trade into anything relevant, and then we're manipulating at the high of the candle. So there really isn't like anything here that I would take personally. I'm not gonna take the CSD, like I'm not doing that. Because I'm more like AM trades and T trades where I don't take the first CSD, I take the next one. That's really all we're doing here. So their approach is very similar. But when I look at the profile, right, in just the 4-hour candles, right, that's a line. And then when we go into the next 4-hour open, which is 5 a.m. At this point, we have the daily profile already like established where we have the CSD on the hourly chart. So we can already anticipate this next 4-hour open to trade its wick in this opposing candle. It's just like the daily candle where it prints a C2 closure, right? It prints a C2 closure. You're just going to look within that range, upper half of it. Is there a key level to trade to create that wick in, right? And so here we have the high of the candle created with SMT right here. This is also news we had on Friday, right? So when I open up here, let me show you GJ real quick. So we have the 4-hour open right here. We also have the high of that candle. I don't know why it's not showing. Oh man, I missed something. That's weird. We also have the high of the candle created by S&P here. So it's just the same thing that I like to see on the daily. You see that SMT? So when you get this CSD here, you can assume that this is the high of the candle, right? We shouldn't trade back to it. As you see here on same thing over here. Okay. So we're opening high, and now you're getting an hourly model, right? You have the high of that candle formed by an hourly model. And we open up a new candle right here, right? So again, we're trading away from manipulation already. You can assume this next 4-hour candle to open high low close, but it's just a 5-minute model. That makes sense. So when I look here, okay, what is the high of this candle created by manipulation and SMT, right? So you see how it's very repeatable. So this is your entry right here, or this one, right? Because this we're already trading away from manipulation, right? And then here's your propulsion blocks right here. This is just an hourly fractal model as well. So very clean. You can use the driver at that point. The confirmation to a driver or to a manipulation, a high day prior to a driver is when it expands away. Right? We don't need to come back up here. We don't need to manipulate again. We've already done that, right? Already right here and right here. There's no need to come back. So that's GJ, some examples on GJ. Let's go to like CL here. So let's peep CL. So look at this daily candle, right? Previous day, we kind of expand, not really, kind of just, we don't take out this high, right? But we kind of just open up in the premium end of this range, right? So we're not expecting this to hold price. We have this deep run. The way we manipulate and expand back in the range, not ideal for this to hold, right? So I was actually looking for this day to be bearish, but total invalidation, right? Because we open low first, we have that manipulation creating the low day that we'd like to see, and expanding back in the range. So this here, we see price open up first, create its high with manipulation, SMT, inside of the London session. So if you're a New York trader like me, I want to get on side with expansion, right? So when I open up the charts like 8 a.m., first I'm seeing if the 6 a.m. candle can expand away from something. is there already a high of the day put in? In this case, there is, right? We have this CST here. We have this 6-hour open. So what is the 6-hour opening up near? Right? It's opening up near these opposing candles, right? So we can already assume the high of this 4-hour candle is going to be created right here. And this is almost like AM's logic, right? We have a high day put in. We're just trading continuation, but within candles, right? We're aligning expansion candles. So we see this candle go open high first. You have this 15-minute CSD continuation signature within those opposing candles. So you can assume it's the high of the 4-hour candle and just that continuation, right? So, and then you get the expansion, creating the body of that candle. And at this point, in the 4-hour open, what are we opening near? Opposing candles again. So you can already assume that we're going to expand in this candle, right? Here, we open up the candle right here. We open up high into that opposing candle, and we create an intra-candle CSD, right? So now we can assume that the 10 a.m. high that we see to the right, that small wick, we have that alignment. So we can already assume that this can expand. We have that small opposing run, right? We can assume it's the high of the candle because it's protected by this opposing candle. Does that make sense? And all we're doing is trading daily distribution. That's it, right? When I go to the daily chart here, we open high first, create the wick with this intra-candle CSD. And notice how we're entering around the opening price. This here is around the opening price of that daily candle to really catch the body. That's what we're going to catch. And we're also doing the same thing on the 4-hour chart. So we're just aligning expansion candles there. I have a couple of more examples. Let me just delete this for you. Clear up the charts here. So here is just continuation. Here we open up the candle here. Within this range, there's really not much. I can use these opposing candles. We don't trade into them. This is going to be your invalidation. If I'm going to be bullish, I don't really want price to come all the way down here. This is below the 50%. But here we have just like yesterday, or not the previous day, but the one I just showed you. We're creating the low of the day with the SMT with what you call it? I can't think. Manipulation. Sorry, I literally cannot talk. So now we're aligning with the expansion candle. So when I go to the 4-hour chart, what do we see? The low of the day again, a 4-hour model, and then the continuation of that, right? So why can we trade this candle? Because it has that small opposing run. It's also created within a fair value gap as well. So it's always going to look something like this. You're rarely ever going to see a 4-hour manipulation, really. Sometimes you do, but within this here, this like swing point on the 4-hour chart, you're going to have like an hourly manipulation. You see that? So this is what I require, and then the 4-hour candles just support that basically. Just trading expansion away from that. So here you have an ideal swing formation, right? So T trades ideal swing formation. So there's different ways you can trade this. You can trade AM's logic, where maybe you wait for this 15-minute CSD, right, and a continuation signature. That's AM's logic. Or you can trade T trades, where you have that hourly CSD. Oh my god, dude. Trying to delete that. Try to clean it up. Right. So here, let me bar replay to this. So at this point, no, it's at this point, sorry. Right. At this point, the CSD would have to be here. And there is SMT like down here. So if you wanted to trade this candle 3 bolder higher, right? You ideally want to trade the stronger asset, which was RB. We had like lower time frame bullish SMT. But here for continuation, you get an intracandle CSD right there. So you can trade that higher. And at this point, on the opening price, where is it? Where did it just open? Wait, what? Oh yeah, it's just open right here. You actually don't really get it in Trader. You don't get this, right? But the new 4-hour candle opens right here. Opens right here. Right, no, it doesn't. We're back on futures. God, I'm so sorry. Getting confused. Let's skip to that, which is about right here, right? So at this point, do we have a key level within this previous candle's range? Right, that's kind of how we're applying it. Yes, we do. We have a fair value gap. We still have a draw open, just Asia highs. I have a fair value gap. You see how we could go open low first into that? And now you have these opposing candles. So it's almost like the fractal model, essentially. But I'm not strict on time frame. I don't really trade the 15-minute time frame too much, personally. I'll use the 5-minute. Right, we're getting a CSD here. You trade it the same way. You see how we're just trading within. This confirms the wick. It's like an intracandle CSD, but on the 4-hour chart. You see that? So if you want to keep it mechanical, this is basically right here. This is like AM's approach, basically. He's just getting a 5-minute continuation signature. But me, I like to align it with a candle, expansion candle, basically. That's all that is. As far as T trades here, you could maybe use a 15-minute, 1-minute fractal model. Right, so this is what I mean by using a lower time frame model. Right, we can already assume that this is creating the wick of the 4-hour candle. Just that small poison run. We're already expecting it, right? We have candlestick closure. We have everything we want to see, manipulation, blah, blah, blah. So here, you could trade a 15-minute, 1-minute model, right? Do we have a CST inside a candlestick? Yes. Do we get an entry here? Right? Probably. Right? Can we close over this? You see how there's so much flexibility you can do with this, right? And you could trade to this high. Right? Get another opportunity right there. Boom, right? So yeah, there's many ways you can do it. You can apply this logic to AM's approach, T-Trade's approach. It doesn't really matter. And so let's go to the next day. You're gonna see the similarities in the framework, which is why I trade this approach. So again, just like the last example, the open low first, creating the low with, again, just keeping it somewhat mechanical, right? Fairly mechanical. Pairing a manipulation on the hourly time frame with an SMT with a higher time frame candle. So again, lower time frame model, higher time frame candle, right? And then we're aligning it with expansion. So when I go to the 4-hour candle, see this small opposing run? I can trade this reversal candle, right? Because it can be a reversal into expansion. I can already expect expansion because the low of the candle is created by manipulation, right? Manipulation, expansion. And this would be our draw right here. Right, so when I go to 15-minute time frame, you can trade it like a candle 2 closure, where you can almost treat it like a candle 3 almost. Like first off, you need to have a reversal, so you need that CSD. And then you can just trade in continuation. Right? You can treat it like that almost. This is perfectly valid in AM's approach. For T trades, it's kind of if I go here though, maybe there's a 15-minute or a 1-hour model here. Just see how it's a 1-hour model, just with approach naturally. It's always going to form usually. So let's see if there is a model here. You know what's interesting about this? I actually remember this day. So we do get this. This would be the CSD, right? At least I think it would. Hold on, let me see RB. Because if there is SMT here, this would be the CSD. I'm gonna check. I don't know why shit is delayed, by the way. I need to check trade of it. Okay, there is no, there's no SMT. Okay. We're just double checking. So here, we don't actually get the CSD in candle 3. We validate in candle 4, so you can still trade that. You know what's interesting though? If I go to a 15-minute time frame, we have the CSD. It's kind of weird. So like the 5-minute CSD is located somewhere in the upper half of this wick, whereas the body, so we open up 7 a.m., go lower first into a key level, and then you validate the wick of the 7 a.m. candle right here. on the 15-minute chart. So a little weird how that happened, but yeah, you see how that can be aligned, right? With just 4-hour candles there. So let's go over some more examples. This is more so just of the 4-hour creating the high of the day a lot of the times. So if I just run through this weekly PA here, you open up the week right here in the middle of a range, right? And when we think about a bearish candle, right, because I'm always gonna lean bearish if we're opening up in a bearish range. We open high first and then get a strong reaction away from that, right? Having a strong candle 3 closure. I'm expecting the next, couple of days to expand away from that. I'm assuming this to be the high of the candle, right? If you want to use the model where the previous candle hit this key level and we trade away, just like on GJ that we GJ that we saw, right? Where this candle hit the high, or this candle hit the fair value gap, the next candle will give you a reaction away from that. Here we just don't take out this high, but we do have an intraday manipulation that confirms this wick with a driver. So yeah, just given this, right here, we go into this candle here. We can confirm this being a bearish candle with the way the daily profile forms. So you see how we more so just have all these failure swings here. So we're opening up 9:30 with no relevant high or low of the day. So what's the requirement? We want to see a manipulation get the high of the day, which is what happens here, which also just creates the high of a 4-hour expansion candle. You see this here? You see this? It's a candle to closure, but it's more so an expansion candle to closure, right? And the reason why 6 a.m., especially for indices, is an important time interval, I mean, is because we have, every single red folder or driver usually, basically, right? We have 8:30, we have 9:30. 10 a.m. is really the only one you're going to get, maybe Powell or something within the 10 a.m. candle. But a lot of times 6 a.m. is going to form the high of the day if it's a New York reversal, right? So 10 a.m. you can expect that continuation away from that. So here you have 9:30, manipulating. Then you get this 5-minute CSD, whether that's something you take or not. There's some 1-minute stuff in here as well. But what does 10 a.m. do? It's 6 a.m. reverse, right? It expands. It's just like the driver thing. If the previous driver manipulates, what should the next driver do? Which is 10 a.m. news right here. Should expand, right? So this is one of the most repeatable things you're going to see in the market is with drivers, just manipulation in general. So let's go to the next example. This was yesterday. So again, we're just aiming for that daily low, and we have news as well this day. So if you look at the daily chart, let's just go over like the phase of price here. Right, so weekly candle, open high, now we're creating the low, right? We're expanding. And then what we see here after expansion is consolidation, which is a continuation signature, right? When you expand and then consolidate, price, it's not a reversal signature where we don't expect price to reverse like this. It needs to at least take out these lows. It needs to manipulate to reverse, right? Price doesn't reverse generally from failure swings. See these failure swings here? So when we manipulate, we can expect to expand towards that, right? And when we look at this expansion candle, right, we have that small opposing run, right? So we go to the lower time frame. What is the high of the candle formed by? Manipulation, right? Just like over here, right? So when we have this news event at 8:30, what is the confirmation? If we manipulate prior to news event, what's the confirmation? That news event expanding away, right? It's just like over here, where we manipulate prior to the 10 a.m. news event. So what should it do? It should just expand, right? This is very repeatable. Happens all the time. So when we look here at, we're not really looking at 6 a.m. or 10 a.m. I don't really care about 10 a.m. in this case because the draw liquidity is already taken. I'm not expecting a continue. I'm not really interested in continuation, right? Because once the draw liquidity is taken, we can more so chop around. So I'm really just aligning this 930 continuation within a expansion candle on the daily chart, but also on the 4-hour chart. So when we enter around 930, right, we are entering within, I'm going to show you on the 1-hour, but we're entering within a 4-hour expansion candle. So we have that alignment, right? So again, lower time frame continuation with a higher time frame expansion candle supporting it, right? We have this fair value gap for redistribution and whatnot. So again, if we have a high day put in, a drawn liquidity, what should 930 do? It should expand, right? That's that kind of repeatable thing we talk about. And within this here, this 15-minute, you're going to have an hourly open high low close. So is this really a featured model? No, but it's a lot of the logic that he uses. It's kind of like AMs, right? Where we're just trading continuation, right? But it's also within, candles. That's how I kind of view it. If I go with like the 3-minute here, it's a lot cleaner. Right, so we have 930 open right here. We just manipulate this little high and we expand away. That's what we want to see, right? And on ES, we have like nice propulsion blocks. If I show you here, we just have a bunch of propulsion blocks. Interopo. So really, all this is doing, you're trading within a 1-hour expansion candle, within a 4-hour expansion candle. You're confirming the high of that 1-hour expansion candle. You then trade the body, right? If that makes sense. So maybe a little confusing, but it's all really the same. Really think about trades model, right? We're just trading within expansion candles away from manipulation, right? So let's go on to the next example. So this one I actually traded here a while back on my Twitter, but we just have expansion consolidation. So again, price is not going to reverse from these lows. So when we manipulate, right, we can expect expansion, right? This manipulation is paired with the daily, or it creates a daily wick with SMT, right? So notice how this candle goes open high first. If I go to the NQ examples, right? We're going open low first, but we're not trading into anything relevant. Doesn't mean anything, right? What's important is we take out this wick. But really, I'm still looking at this as the open high low close candle, right? Opening high, creating the wick. Then, we're running into something relevant, running to the previous day's high here. At the high of the day, to trade it into irrelevant lows, right? Just consolidation. Equal lows there. Look at this day too. Almost the same thing. We do go lower first, but it doesn't actually trade into anything. It just creates equal lows. So we actually trade into something relevant, the other side of the range, creating the wick, expect distribution. So it's just like this on CL, right? Let me just make sure I'm good here. Y'all can see my screen, right? Yeah. So I'm almost done yapping here. So yeah, let's look at the 4-hour candles, right? Again, 4-hour candle creating the high of the day, and then we're getting that continuation, right? So any continuation, I'm looking to enter around the opening price, looking to confirm this wick on 10 a.m. to trade it lower into these lows. Pretty simple. So when I drop down, not only do you have that 4-hour CSD, we also are aligning this with the driver. So this is 8:30 news. We open high, great. We're comparing that manipulation with that news event, and then we're trading lower, right? So when I open up 10 a.m., it's like, where can we create the high of the candle, right? We have this fair value gap, which is also a 30-minute fair value gap, right? I don't really want it to go way up here, these opposing candles. We just have this 4-hour opposing candle as well. We just have this general area, right? And then here, right, we're creating the intracandle CSD. So yeah, that confirms the high of the 4-hour candle. This is just a 4-hour model, right? Right. So, but within this, you might have a 30-minute, 30-minute model, right? If this was a, what you call it, panel 2 closure on the 30-minute, I would actually trade this panel 3 lower, right? Because I would assume this to be the 4-hour high, basically. And here, you see, you get an ideal swing formation. You get a candle for expansion, right? Just trading away from the 4-hour high. So you see how we're kind of aligning timeframes here. There's so many ways you can do it. Um, this is how you're going to get more opportunities in the market. And it's just higher probability as well. So if I go to YM, I have some examples here. I traded like almost all of these days with this same logic, same profile. This one is a bit different, but I'll explain it. So let's go over these two first here. So again, the low of the day, created by manipulation, paired with an SMT and a driver, both of these days. So when I go here, I go to the daily chart here. Let's just go over this really quick. You manipulate this low, right? And then we open up a new week here. So when I'm looking at Monday's candle, really important at what it does. You see how it's just an indecision candle? But what I see this as is the weekly opening going low first and it's closing very weak, right? With this wick. So if you actually look inside this wick, all it is a range on the 4-hour chart of a high to a low. And this is like a consolidation. So do I think price is going to reverse from this consolidation? No. So when we form this, opposing candle within that wick, I'm going to use this as my invalidation. Right? I'm assuming this is a reversal to just go from expansion, retracement, expansion. That's kind of how I'm viewing this. So intraday though, after this expansion here, we consolidate. So again, I want to trade back to these highs and obviously beyond that. So when we manipulate the other side of that range and then paired with the SMT, I look at 9:30 here, pair that with the driver. So 9:30 manipulates, we expect 10 a.m. to distribute. So the 6 a.m. candle forms the low of the day. What I expect 10 a.m. to do to expand. You see how we're using the 4-hour chart here. I look at the next day, again, a fair value gap here. Right, this candle hits it, confirm reversal off of this low. So when I look at the 1-hour chart, do I have a 1-hour low to manipulate? Yes. So keeping it mechanical with SMT. Now pair this with the driver. We have 8:30 news. I'm going to show you. 8:30 manipulates. What should the next driver do? 9 o'clock, 9:30, expand, right? So see how this is very consistent. If you manipulate or pair manipulation, um, just using that if-then logic, if we manipulate prior to news event, it should expand, which is what we do here, right? Or just pairing a manipulation with the driver, getting that continuation signature right here. Right? You can already trade this. Why can you trade this first reversal? Well, what do we have 9:30 doing? Validating this manipulation. So you have that driver, you have the SMT, but you also have the 4-hour small opposing run on your side. Do you see that? So you can trade this. I trade it within the 10 a.m. wick. So I'm basically just trading to this high. That's all I really care about. So the daily open being right up here. So it's quite the larger poison run. So you have to adjust your targets. It's very important to understand that because this, when you see a larger poison run like this, the way it's forming, it's still fine, right? Because you don't have a protected high of the day. So we can still come back to that. But we're not expecting some crazy expansion beyond that, right? Because we have that small wick. That's not how expansion was formed. So I'm just trading to this high. I'm trading expansion candles to it. So before this daily candle can even form an expansion candle, I'm trading within expansion candles already. But it's just the 4-hour expansion candle. It's just that. So when I go to lower time frame, I'm just looking to, to see where, this 4-hour low can form, right? When I see this bulky opposing candle, right, I can just either market execute here, assume that this is the low of the 4-hour candle where it's going to form, or I can wait for, it to form, right? So this 4-hour candle was opened up first. We validate it right here. Right, we sweep out this low. Right, so this just we're entering around the opening price of the 4-hour candle to catch the body of it. Just validating that low. So yeah, this is like AM's logic, right? Trading with manipulation, just trading continuation. If I go to the T trades, there's actually I think it's a fractal model somewhere. You have this one here, the swing point formed, candle 3, so you trade the next candle 4 higher. But I forgot which one I traded because I know I traded fractal model here. Maybe it was a 30-minute right here. I don't actually know. I don't really remember. You see here we have 30-minute fair value gap. This is also where the 4-hour candle formed the low. Um, so again, you're basically aligning, a 30-minute model or whatever model or time frame with that wick again, that small opposite run. And here, I don't know if I traded this or what. You see how we formed the wick? If I just break it down here, fractal model logic, we're kind of just opening up within this ideal swing formation. So this is generally where you want to see the low form. And you have this as well. So you can either mark execute there or off this creation of that. Let me go beyond 2R here, obviously. So that's an example right there of a fractal model. Just paired with this 4-hour logic. You're aligned with expansion. And let me go over this next day here. But I took it on RTY. But there's logic behind it. So here, so if you know my model, right, I trade the day after we hit a key level. So we have Monday low of the week. And if I go on YM or RTY, I mean, it's much more telling on the daily chart. It's much more telling. This looks like a consolidation, right? If this was true manipulation right here, it would expand, right? We'd get expansion candles after. So when I see just inside barring, I'm doing this as consolidation. So when we manipulate the high, I want to trade the next candle lower into these failure swings, right? This is the day I traded. When I go to the, just the high of the day, I do not have my ideal framework where I see the high of the day forming manipulation, but it's not 100% required. It's just my A plus version of a model rate or of an open high low close daily candle. But intraday, when I open up 930, I do have alignment. I have an hourly CSD. Okay, that's check one. I have a small opposing run to trade expansion, right? And now it's just about finding some sort of protected high to trade away from within this range, right? Because I can't trust anything internally to this really. All I know is that this is my invalidation, is this very high. So I'm going to wait for a driver to pass and create that. So again, what should 930 do? If this is going to be a high day, it should come up there, right? So we're either going to make an opposing run to the draw being this low. We're going to make an opposing run to the draw and create a new protected swing, which is exactly what it does. Or we're just going to expand, either or. But in this case, I can't trust any of this price action to trade away from. So I want it to do that. I want it to create that manipulation, that internal manipulation. So this is what it does. 930 opens here. We're going to pose and run to the draw, sweeping out all these highs and creating SMT, which is doing what? It's creating the wick of this 4-hour candle, right? It's also small opposing run. But really, I'm waiting for the next candle to open. Right, 6 a.m. reverses, create some sort of high to trade away from. With 10 a.m., we'll distribute. And this is what I traded within, right? Does that make sense? If I show you why I'm here. I have no idea why my charts. I need to go on trade debates. I think my add-on is not on trade. But you see this this SMT here, right? With 930 open. So yeah, this is why I traded. And I took it to this low here. Yeah, and I was aligned with the expansion. The previous 4-hour candle, right, reversed. I'll show you on RTY. We have that previous candle reversal, but the thing is, it's not a fractal model technically, because I'm not trading a 15-minute entry here. I'm actually trading like a 1-minute. But with this logic here, I know that this is going to be an expansion candle, so I don't need to see. I'm not expecting price just hang around, right? For it to form a 15-minute posing candle, it just takes too much time, right? When price is really, expanding, it's going to go fast. Like if you look at all these, it's expanding with speed, right? It doesn't have time to create that 15-minute opposing candle. So this is why I just trade within an expansion candle. I trade the lower time frames within that. After a forex trader, It's totally different. Um, maybe even like gold and stuff. But a lot of times I'll just use the 5 minute, if anything. That's showing how I use the 4 hour candle, guys. If you guys have any questions, sorry if that was a lot, but um, yeah, that was pretty much it. Let me get to these questions. Second case reversal with long wick. Uh, trade third. Yep. Do you need CSD in third candle, or is it okay if you? I'm assuming you mean if you enter. Okay, I think you're asking this. Yeah, it's like the fractal model almost, where let me try to find an example here. So you're saying a candle 3. Let me try to find an example of that. So when I look here, for example, we wouldn't really want to trade this candle 2 because it has that large opposing run, right? So I want to trade the next candle. So when I look here, I do have a reversal. So you're going to treat it the same because you still need to confirm a reversal of the high of day, right? If you're going to use my model where like, the framework for an open eye low close, we need that manipulation. So you need to confirm the manipulation with the CSD, which is going to be always within the first candle that manipulated. So it's basically candle 2. So we have that. So, but you still need to confirm the high of this next candle, right? Which we eventually get right there. Right. So now you can enter this, assuming that this is the high of the candle here. And now you can trade that away, right? And that's the same thing, right? We form a swing point here. What do you notice about this swing point though, right? We haven't actually expanded yet. So this is when candle 4 can actually create a large expansion. When candle, not candle 2 or 3 expand. What you see here with internally to these candles is just expansion, retracement. We've started the expansion, then we get a new open. So we'll just continue the expansion. That's essentially how I look at it here. And then with the way the lower time frame PA forms, you can still expect, this week, you have a weak closure here, but with the way this candle forms, or the lower time frame candle PA is forming, it still supports expansion, right? And yeah, here you have this CSD that confirms the wick of this candle. So you can enter there as well. And you could take that lower, right? Does that make sense? Or you could just enter off of the opening price of this opposing candle, just assuming that the reversal is going to form, but neither AM trades or T trades really trade like that. They don't really just enter out the first CSD generally. They wait for a second CSD, like a propulsion block. They're not trying to catch a reversal, trying to catch a continuation. But we can trade within a reversal candle. At least I do. Okay. I can trade within a reversal candle, but I still need to have the lower time frame continuation signature. So you see here, this is a reversal candle, but it's a reversal into expansion. Okay, there's a big difference here. You see the small wick. So I'm not just entering here off the CSD. I am waiting for this one, this continuation signature. You know, so yeah, you can essentially what I'm saying. This whole like thing that I'm showing you guys here, you want to have a lower time frame model within a higher time frame expansion candle. If you want it to be supported, that's really it. That's what this is really. What about if ES and Q and all of correlated assets sweep liquidity and there's no S&T? Just sweeps everywhere. Sweeps everywhere. What do you mean by that? So like this day, I'll show you where on NQ. So like I don't think there's S&T any of these days where we sweep. So ideally there is S&T ideally, right? But it doesn't have to be. This is when I just use a driver. So the confirmation to this always, see how this is paired, this manipulation is so paired with the driver, right? And we're expanding away from that. That's generally enough, right? Because when I look at the opposing side of this, right, you just have failure swings. See that? So all this is like accumulation and manipulation distribution. Consolidation, manipulation, distribution. That's all. The manipulation forming the high of the candle. Both of these days, right? That kind of makes sense. I'll even show you a loss that I took on YM. Took a loss on YM this week. Right here. So same thing, right? We have hourly manipulation created in one session. We get the CSD here, and we have 930 around here. We have 930. So again, the confirmation to this being the high of the day is when 930 expands away from it, and we're also in this fair value gap here. So 930 is right here. So we just expand away, but I can't really get an entry right here. It's just too quick. Kind of just moves too quick without me. So I opted to trade the continuation when we close below here. Because the daily context is really nice. We take out a daily swing point here. We have manipulation on the daily time frame. We're just trading continuation away from that. Then we have like SMT as well, right? So I just entered right here. So we had 10 a.m. open right here. So I'm assuming that the 10 a.m. high is going to be created within this range like this. That's what I wanted to do, this daily low. But what we do is we just blast right through it. But I mean, it happens, right? I was actually busy this day, so I just set a limit right here, actually, on this fair value gap within it. I was looking to trade something like this, but yeah, I set a limit there, and it just took me out. And then we just chopped, right? And you can anticipate it to chop because if it's going to be expansion day, there's no reason for it to come up here, bro. There's no reason. So when it fails to follow through, really, displacing this low, just kind of consolidate usually. It's pretty much what it does. Yeah, it's just bullshits, right? Now when we manipulate, truly manipulate, then it should expand, right? You see here. Another thing is I don't like to fade candles, so this is a good lesson here. So this day I wanted to trade that to this unestablished low. It's just 1800 low. So it's just failure swings, right? So I'm not going to trade within this candle here. Why? Because it's expansion candle, right? It's more likely to close an indecision candle or just an expansion candle, like on the other side that like a bullish expansion candle. I want to trade a bearish expansion candle to these lows. So um, I'm going to wait for 10 a.m. open essentially, right? Notice how we open high first, right? Then we get a CSD, so you can look to trade this, right? But if you're going to trade 930 or anything around here, you would have got destroyed because it's not aligned with expansion essentially. That kind of makes sense. And then here, like we form SMT, I think. Yep, we put a lower low here, right here. Then we expand. So this being 10 a.m. open, right here. Then we're creating SMT with the high. So just like the daily chart, creating the high of a candle, small opposing run with the SMT or manipulation. SMT is basically manipulation. And then it gets confirmed like right here, we get that CSD, whatever time frame alignment you use. And then you can expect distribution to see these lows right here, like session lows. I generally don't trust those as low today. But this was the basically manipulation day, so it makes sense why we didn't really get there. If you look on YM as well, you generally don't want to trade these days where we have this large opposing run. So again, you have to adjust your targets though. You can't target this low, this daily low, because it's not going to print this large wick and expand all the way down here. Like I said, you could target around the opening price of this candle. It's more likely to close an indecision candle. So just like this 4-hour candle, we do sweep this high, whatever, that we want to see reversal off of, creating the high of the day, but it's not supported by the 4-hour candle that you're trading within. So this 4-hour candle is more likely to close an indecision or a bearish candle. So I don't look to trade those days really, or those candles. I will trade within the daily candle, but yeah, you have to adjust your target. You see how like, days like this, we absolutely can target this low because supported by that small wick to become an expansion candle in the direction towards our draw. I mean, on the same POI, every asset's 30, all of the assets sweep highs in that case. There's, oh yeah, so like ideally, yeah, I want to see an SMT. Ideally, it's always it's always preferred, bro. It's either gonna look like that, where like we either don't have an SMT, but you're gonna have like a lower time from SMT. I'll actually show you an example of that. Uh, I can actually think of the one right here. I think so. Here again, I'm always gonna trade back to unestablished lows, right? We have the previous day that actually hit that daily high. This is the day that you can frame reversal to these lows. Uh, and this day here, we open up here, we open high, and again, failure swing to the low, failure swing to the low. I want to trade back to that. And ideally, I want to use drivers to form the high of the day, which is what we do here. You have 9:30 reversing the daily candle, which is great. So you don't have any hourly SMT here, but you have lower time from SMT here. Right, so I always want to see SMT at some reversal point. Does that kind of make sense? So if I look uh, within like an hourly low or high, some sweep. Let's try to find one. So even these, bro, like yeah, like what I mean by this is like, we have you have the high of the day being manipulation, but if you don't have SMT here, if you had an SMT on the lower time frame, so just pretend like there's SMT here. Usually, you're gonna get that. We're gonna get some lower time from SMT within the distribution away from here. So like lower time from SMT within this fair value gap, which we do have that. Um, I remember, but yeah, like I generally want to pair my reversal with SMT. Like that's a great filter to have, in my opinion. So the way I frame, these ideal scenarios where you create the high of the day with manipulation, that's a filter. Like that is high. It's a high probability, um, you know, uh, I guess profile. So if you only traded that, you'd have a lot of more success. If I look on GC here, more recent PA, not only here you have it, right, but you have it on Friday as well. This is that delayed protraction profile that I went over in my first stream, where the low day is nothing. It's just like it's literally just 1800. So this is when price just opens up, kind of just fade away from the open, and then we manipulate the daily range, pair that manipulation with an SMT, like we always do, and a driver. So if you look here, because basically just it creates the wick of the daily candle. It's also a small wick, and then we expand again. So if you look on the 5-minute here, you have 8:30, make an opposing run to our draw, right? And then we just get that confirmation right there. Right, so you're pairing a manipulation with a driver, which is higher probability. I'm giving a trick on this Bitcoin fractal. Is this like recent? It's not bad. But it's really so like I'm not really referring to these opposing candles anymore. This price kind of already left it. It's really just these highs like this sweep. So that's important. This is where the high really gets created. Um, like if we didn't manipulate this high, bro, and we went higher than this to these opposing candles, I would not even use these opposing candles anymore. But this doesn't look bad. Is this a daily chart? Oh, yeah, this is not bad. See how we open up higher first, right? We form an ideal swing formation. So you can use the 5-minute fractal one over here. So let's actually look at that real quick. Just I don't know the context here, but we'll look. It's today. Okay, it's not today. What day is this? I don't know. Thought that was today maybe, but I don't think it is. Oh, that's January 1st, looks like. No, I'm tripping. I actually don't know. Let me see. Okay, so expand this. Man, I can't find it. Huh. Am I blind? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where that's at, bro. It is the daily chart. I can find that on the daily chart. So, but yeah, it doesn't look bad. Is that recorded? Yeah, it's recorded. How do you manage looking at so many pairs? Because of my framework. My framework is very specific, right? A lot of these days we don't form my framework where we form the low of the day. I'm telling you, this is probably one of the highest probable, like, um, what do you call it? Logics, right? Because there's so many things that is happening here when you get this manipulation of high day. For one, you're creating a protected swing intra candle. So you're creating a protected swing within the daily candle. So you can trade away from that. So then you're trading above the opening price within the wick. So you catch the body of that expansion candle. And then you're pairing that with an SMT, a driver. You're also pairing it with 4-hour candles. So you're aligning expansion candles. Like there's a lot that goes on, but yeah, it doesn't happen every day. That's for sure. So I'll show you like it just happened. It happens a couple times a week usually on indices. Here I like it. I really like it when New York session creates the high like this because this is when I can actually trade it. I can trade the actual near the opening price of the daily candle. I can catch the initial expansion. When I look at something like this, I'm trading continuation, right? Ideally, I want to trade this. I want to trade this move here lower. And if you look at this manipulation, aligning expansion candle. So when I go to the 4-hour candle, you're going to see the expansion candle here. See this? This small wick here. So you're just expanding away from manipulation within an expansion candle. So when those two things support each other, is when you get really nice expansion candles. But yeah, my favorite is like I'll try to find a really nice model. Oh, this one's really good. So I traded this on Iesta. It was stronger. Let me see all this stuff here. So I was trading to these session highs. Again, no relevant high of the day. So we're just trading a continuation. We have a strong close. We're opening low first. We're creating the low of the day with manipulation, right? And now if I look at the 4-hour candle, we have 10 a.m. So again, 6 a.m. candle creates the low of the day. It's also a reversal candle, so I can expect this expansion at 10 a.m. I think this is where I traded the fractal model, by the way, on the 15-minute, 1 minute. Almost positive. But yeah, we have pairing that with 9:30. We have 9:30 open here, manipulating, and then we get that continuation signature, or we get the validation of the reversal, and then you get some sort of continuation signature, whatever, right here. It's like a 5. This is literally an hourly fractal model, right? Supported by expansion candles on a higher time frame above it, right? So you see that? So the opening price of the 10 a.m. candle is just a candle 2 closure, or a candle 3, sorry, open rate. So this is just a fractal model, um, which you're going to trade it. There's within this distribution, you're going to have 15-minute, 1-minute fractal models, 30-minute, 3-minute. So here you have a 30 or a 15-minute, 1-minute fractal model, right into the high. Right, you get your CSD here, and you form that low. I think I traded this. Right, you have that continuation there into this high up here. Does that make sense? So if you trade this model, you know exactly what you're looking for. That's what you want. This day, I can't trade this day, bro. I can't trade this day because it doesn't fit my model. I can't trade this day either, right? Because there's no SMT here. Um, this is also created at a relevant time. I don't like reversals that are created at kind of irrelevant times. This day I can't trade. Do you see hourly manipulation here? No. You see how it's choppy? A lot of times just avoiding chop, you know? Um, this day I can't trade. It's just ass. Like before the news event, it was just terrible. I can't trade this day. So it's very specific, but you get the best. You can anticipate these expansions, because it's just repeatable framework. Like if you look here, a lot of these days are my model. Like almost all these days here. I think I traded this day. I got missed this day, but the low today here traded from manipulation with the driver, by the way. You have 8:30 manipulation of this low, and you have SMT here, right? And then you get 9:30 continuation. So 8:30 manipulation, 9:30 continuation. If I look here, the high of the day is created from manipulation here, and then you're just getting again 9:30 distribution away from the high of the day that's already formed, right? If I look here on like the 4-hour time frames, 10 a.m. distribution inside of this candle here, we just have like I think we have like lower time from SMT here or something. I don't remember. Um, but right, you kind of open up this 10 a.m. candle with already a propulsion block here, so you can expect that continuation. What about this day here? Right, if you align this manipulation low today, it's just an expansion candle. See that? So when you get this 9:30 continuation signature, if I show you here, it's just supported by a 4-hour expansion candle. So it's more likely to play out. Yeah, here it was. This is so clean, by the way. I'll tell you why I missed this shit. There's like an SMT here, and then 9:30 opens right here, expands away from that. So there's like a 5-minute CST here, there's a 3-minute CST here. I think I wanted like a retest of an order block here, and I just ended up getting left behind. If I go on NQ, uh, the stronger asset, right? We create a higher high here. It's just much better delivery. We get a much more exaggerated expansion. Where was that at? I think it was like, where am I at right now? Oh yeah, it's over here. Sorry. So you get a much better expansion. Yeah, this is what I wanted. I don't know why. This costed me a lot of money. We see we ran out this low. 9:30 runs out this low with the SMT, and then we get that continuation signature. The next expands a decent amount. I think AM took this trade. I just didn't wait. I just didn't mark execute on the close, which I should have. It is what it is. And then this day, again, it meets my profile. So does this day as well. If you look here, I was actually streaming this day. Here, I have a bunch of lows here. I have a Monday reversal, so I'm expecting a continuation Tuesday. And then here we have a high on the 1-hour time frame. We form the high of the day with SMT, manipulation rate. If I go to the 4-hour chart, right, we're not going to trade this, right when we hit this fair value gap or this high right here. Why? Because 6 a.m. candle is an expansion candle. We're going to wait for the next candle to become some sort of expansion candle. So when we look to the 15-minute time frame here, you see how it goes open high first. This is the opening price of the 4-hour candle. It was open high first. Then we form some lower time from SMT as well in here. And yeah, and then it goes short to these lows. But I have a whole stream. Screen frozen? Oh no. It's still frozen. Oh no. How long has that been frozen? Oh, it's not frozen. Oh, okay. Thank God. Thank God. Yeah, if you go to one of my streams, it's about the second one or something. I basically go over my logic for you know daily profiles. I go over all the daily profiles too. But yeah, this is my ideal scenario for a daily profile to form. It's manipulation high day. But if you think about AM's logic, if you think about AM's logic where 40% of the time, you know, the high of the day is actually formed in ASA session, there's usually no manipulation there. So I just require you know, um, some sort of protected low or high to be formed. Let's say we form the low day here, and then we open up New York session. I just want some sort of protected low to trade away from if there's still a draw. Yeah. So really, I'm just always trading within expansion candles and away from protected swings. It's really it, just like AM trades does. I just use candles, like lower time candles, like T trades does. Nice. And then looks like you put a lot of layers high and low today, especially yes. And you also set in past stream about 4 candles trading up here. Oh yeah, this is actually the stream that I talked about it. So you can rewatch it if you missed it. Have we discussed about the other reversal signature? The other reversal signature. Which one are you referring to? Um, you sit on 1 hour waiting for the manipulation line of daily bias. Yes. I want the high of the day to form manipulation. It's actually pretty simple. The fractal model can think about like intracandle CSD, but like intracandle manipulation. Like within that candle, we must manipulate and then form a protected swing within the candle to then trade away from to catch expansion of that candle. You know, but yeah, I'm probably gonna end it here, guys. We're probably over an hour, 20 minutes here, something like that. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Um, yeah, I have a bunch. If you go to my channel, guys, I'll be posting more examples for you guys. But just watch the stream back. Go on my channel. Hold on. Let me share my screen real quick so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me switch over here. Okay, so go on my channel. I'll be posting more examples for you guys. Since basically you know my whole model. But let's look at this day here, where the high of the day we have 6 a.m. manipulation, right? High of the day form manipulation. We have no established low today. We have just a wick, right? So I'm setting 10 a.m. expansion low, right? This is just a fractal model though, right? But the way the daily profile is forming is actually what's important. And then I'm trading expansion candles away. So a lot of times naturally you'll have an hourly, uh, model, right? Fractal model. This is an hourly fractal model. Candle 2 reversal. And then you have 10 a.m. open high, creating the high of the candle, valid by entry candle CSD. So yeah, I'm always pairing the 4-hour chart with my trading. Yeah, I'll be posting more examples, and you're gonna see how repetitive it is, and it's just a really good filter for price action. You don't want to trade. You don't want to look for daily buys every day. Telling you is how you get destroyed. Like it just is, bro. If you try to trade it every single day, very hard to gauge, you know, price action. It really is. So you kind of need to demand more from the market, and this is kind of what I demand, really. But yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Um, yeah, let me know if you guys have any questions. Y'all have a good weekend.